Hey there, folks. This is Parker Thune, the co-publisher of OUinsider.com. Let's you and I be honest with one another for a second. Oklahoma's heading into year one in the SEC. You want the best insider coverage of OU football and recruiting that the market has to offer. After all, it just means more now. Well, I've got great news for you. I and the outstanding team at OUinsider.com have that coverage for you, and we're running an outstanding promotional deal this week and this week only that enables you to jump on board at minimal cost. Between August 12th and August 16th, you can use promo code SEC24, that's all caps SEC24, to take 75% off your purchase of an OUinsider.com subscription. That means you'll get full access for an entire year for less than $3 a month. I hope to see you over on the message board shortly, folks. We'll make it worth your while. Become an insider today at OUinsider.com.
Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune, and we did a post-practice video for you guys, and now we're going to follow it up with a full podcast where we can really dive into everything that we were going to talk about, and not just give quick takes, but real takes. So we're going to talk about BV. We're going to talk about Jaden Gibson and JJ Hester, who obviously is filling in that spot. Or one of the players filling in that spot. We're going to talk about Venables' comments on the defense, which were eye-opening, eyebrow-raising. We're going to talk about Michael Fasusi. Is Texas starting to feel like they may not be as strong a position as they once thought they were? We're going to talk about Michael Babalola. We're going to talk about Christian Jones.
Andrew Babalola.
Andrew Babalola. Sorry, Michael Babalola. Because we were talking about Michael Boganowski before this, so I just combined the two names. Andrew Babalola. We'll talk about Michael Boganowski. We will do a little bit of that too, because he's been the hot topic as well. Offensive line, quarterback. We're going to run the gambit here. I talked to some sources before we even went on here today, even more, to get a little bit more clarity on how people are actually feeling. BV told the truth. He wasn't I don't want to use fabricating, Parker, but he wasn't stretching things on how people really feel about the offense. I'll explain later on, and obviously Parker's going to give a lot of his takes as well. If you haven't noticed this shirt, this is by Double Team Apparel. You can go to shopdoubleteam.com and you can get this by, I'm going to let you say the name because I'm not going to butcher it.
Reddy Mustafara.
Mustafara.
It's a lot of syllables. I get mixed up sometimes. He's known to us as Reddy, former Oklahoma kicker, great guy. He's got an awesome clothing line.
Yep. So if you want it, this is awesome. I like it because it doesn't say Oklahoma on it or OU or anything. It can be construed as anything. It's just an awesome looking polo. It's a game day apparel. Go there, shopdoubleteam.com. They've got a bunch for you guys. All right, Parker, go there, get it over with. Let's talk.
Yes.
After this.
So we have some bills to pay quickly, folks. And we had a bunch of people on the last podcast complaining in the comment section as if they don't have a fast forward button. So I'm just giving you a heads up. We have to do these ad reads. In the words of Danny Ocean, if that's not your particular brand of vodka, you can feel free to skip ahead. Did you get a kick out of that?
I do like that.
It's Ocean's 11,
just the fact that you're quoting somebody drinking vodka is not on brand for Parker. So go ahead.
Well, folks, this episode of the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast is brought to you in part by our friends at Babbel. 1 in 5 Americans have learned a new language on their bucket list. So if that's you, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel. Fast forward to the end of 2024. Think of your goals. What can you do right now to give yourself the best chance of succeeding? If you want to learn a new language, you absolutely should get Babbel. We've all tried to learn a foreign language at some point. Some of us have gotten there to full-fledged bilingual status, but if you're like me, you took foreign language classes because you had to in order to get by. But as you've gotten older and wiser in life, you've realized, no, learning a second language is actually a huge asset. Babbel makes it very, very easy. Their tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Now, here's a special limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/OU Insider. Again, 60% off at babbel.com/OU Insider, spelled BABBEL.com/OU Insider. Rules and restrictions may apply. This podcast is also brought to you in part by the great folks at HelloFresh. Now, with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep, so you can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I love using HelloFresh in the fall because it cuts down prep time, enables me to go grocery shopping less frequently, and with as busy as our schedules tend to be in the fall, any time that we can shave off the necessities of day-to-day life is much appreciated. From the planning, shopping, and prepping to actually getting everyone to enjoy what you made, family knitters can be stressful, and HelloFresh gets it. They make it easy by delivering fresh ingredients and picky eater-approved recipes right to your door each week. With a changing menu of 50 recipes to choose from each week, HelloFresh makes it easy to always find something the whole family will love. And for a limited time, kids eat free. Go to HelloFresh.com/OU Insider Kids to unlock this exclusive offer. One free kids meal per box for 2 months while your subscription is active. That's free kids meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/OU Insider Kids. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Last thing, folks, if you haven't downloaded the Autograph app, would highly recommend you do that. They've got a burgeoning community of Oklahoma fans that are getting content every single day, reading content, earning rewards for reading that content. Autograph gives back to the fan, and all you have to do is be a fan. So you can read content from us and all your favorite OU beat reporters via the Autograph app. Go to link.ag.fan/boomer and use promo code BOOMER to get tapped in with Autograph. All right, Brandon, let's dive in.
Yeah. By the way, HelloFresh.
I'm telling you, man.
Dude, the stuff they sent us, it's gone. We devoured it so quickly.
It's
and
good
it tastes
food,
fantastic.
too.
It's good food. Yeah, it's fantastic. All right. Let's start with Brent Venables.
Okay.
I think that would be, if we didn't start there, that would be bearing lead. And I think we need to start with, obviously, Jaden Gibson, JJ Hester. I think talking about the fact that, yeah, he confirmed what everybody already knew. Jaden Gibson's out for the year.
Yep.
Shocker. First off, I joke, but like at the same time, it's awful. I joke about the news being shocking. Everybody knew the news. What happened to Jaden Gibson was awful. You feel it's how do you want to word this, Parker? Like, as far as the injury goes, it's not ideal for his position.
No, it's certainly not ideal. That is not a word I would use. You are correct on that front.
Yeah. So we hope for the best. We hope he comes back stronger than ever. He can. It's going to take a lot of work, but I hope he can come back stronger than ever. There's going to be some people that kind of feel that that's going to be just a kick in the groin to OU's wide receivers, but those that don't follow OU are going to be the ones thinking that. Those that know what Emmett Jones has built, those that know that they had a former SEC starter just sitting over there that had been hurt. He's been hurt the last 2 seasons, just chilling. And so he finally is healthy. He would have been a formidable backup. Now he's probably going to get his chance. I don't know that I don't know that Hester will start.
No,
I'm sure they'll figure something out as far as generally. I don't think Gibson was going to start, to be honest. Do you?
No, I do not.
Yeah, I didn't feel Gibson would have started either. So I don't think in much changes as far as how that front goes, the starters go. I just think that Hester just moved up in the ranks of the depth chart, and now will, instead of getting, what do you say, 25, 30 targets this whole year, and that may be stretching it, to actually getting 25, 30 targets this year.
Yeah.
Would that make sense?
Yeah. And look, he right now, best case scenario is probably like the fifth or sixth option at wide receiver for Oklahoma. So there's going to be targets for him, probably not a ton, but as we've seen throughout the years, and we certainly saw last year with Emmett Jones, if you take advantage of the opportunities that you are given, more opportunities will begin to abound. Nick Anderson, I mean, I was driving the bus for Nick Anderson at the beginning of the season, but there were plenty of folks that were apprehensive about what he was going to be able to bring to the table production wise because he's an Anderson. A lot of people say, oh, he'll always be dealing with some sort of injury. Are we ever going to get that dude at 100%? Well, you got him for 100%. You got him at 100% for quite a while. He was awesome. Same thing with Andrell Anthony, right? Who would have thought at the beginning of last season Andrell Anthony through 6 games is going to be pacing Oklahoma in every major receiving category. Yet that's what happened. That was a guy that caught 1 pass the previous year at Michigan. So you take advantage of your opportunities, you're going to be rewarded at Oklahoma. That's how the staff operates. That's how Emmett Jones operates. And here's what I think is really, really interesting about J.J. Hester. And this is going to sound like the most surface level observation imaginable, but let me unpack it a little. What I think is interesting about J.J. Hester is that he's still here. Oklahoma has had a very deep wide receiver room pretty much from the moment Emmett Jones was hired. There has been depth, there has been a ton of talent, and amidst it all, J.J. Hester has never been healthy, never been completely healthy. As Brent Venables said today, he's dealt with a broken foot twice. How many of those guys? Oh, we got the balloons again.
It didn't turn off the way I thought it was going to.
How many of those guys that go through a similar set of circumstances like that and are already in such a stacked position group, how many of those guys either would have chosen to transfer elsewhere for more of an opportunity or been encouraged by the coaching staff to go seek another opportunity because there's just never going to be a window for them at Oklahoma? The fact that the staff didn't have that conversation with J.J. Hester, the fact that they wanted him around, the fact that they made an effort to keep him suggests that they do believe and have believed that when he's healthy, he's going to be an impact contributor for this team. And we don't know because we haven't seen it. He's caught 1 pass through 2 seasons in an Oklahoma uniform because, again, he's dealt with a broken foot twice, and that has severely inhibited his ability to be on the field with any degree of consistency. But you look at what he did at Missouri prior to coming to OU. There was some production there. There were some big plays that he made in a Missouri uniform. How capable is he of replicating that in an Oklahoma uniform post injuries? I don't know. But that's why I think J.J. Hester, to me, is a very, very interesting wild card in that wide receiver room because it's kind of similar to Anthony a year ago, where if it pans out, boy, it's got the chance to be exciting. It's kind of a shot in the dark, but if it works out, again, I think the coaching staff's actions would suggest that they believe it can pan out. What could this guy add to the Oklahoma receiver room? What could he add to the weaponry that Jackson Arnold is already going to have in the passing game? What dimension can he bring to the Sooners' aerial attack? I think the possibilities are very, very exciting, Brandon.
I agree. I don't have his stats at Missouri in front of me, but he wasn't going to stretch the field a ton. That's never been his strength. We talked about that on the post-practice blitz. What interests me is that the fact that he's a big target over the middle, he's going to open some things up as far as 3rd and 7. You need 7 yards. They're giving you the middle of the field. He's a big physical body. He's different than Jaden Gibson. Jaden Gibson's not as thick as him. He's more of a straight line. He's a big play guy, and that was kind of what made the loss of Jaden Gibson suck for Oklahoma because every catch that Jaden Gibson makes, you feel, you know it.
Yeah.
It's there. I think he's going to relieve some of the. I think JJ Hester is going to relieve some of the pressure off of a Dion Burks and a Jalil Farouk as far as having to go be that possession guy on a big third down. He can go do that for you. At the same time, the fact that he can do that for you kind of makes the safety have to account for him going across the middle. Okay, well, I can't just wait on Burks or I don't know Anderson or Farouk or whoever to go deep on the backside, or where I got to pay attention to what's in front of me
Yeah.
as well. You never want anybody behind you, but you're human, and anytime somebody's going across the middle, you're like, oh well, that guy's open. I need to go cover him. Um, he's gonna make for some interesting route combinations for Oklahoma just because his catch radius across the middle is going to be another addition to what Bauer Sharp and Jake Roberts and Devon Mitchell and Caden McIntyre, what they can bring, Caden Helms, what they can bring over the middle as well. So there's a lot that Hester can add to this. Not, but it's still you can't downplay the loss of Gibson because
No.
that's big. I mean,
Well,
that is a big loss.
kind of riffing off what you just mentioned, I think that brings up an interesting point. Nobody talks about the task of replacing Drake Stoops. And granted,
Bingo.
you brought in Dion Burks with the vision that he was going to, at least from a production standpoint, replace what you lost in Drake Stoops. But can you find a guy on this roster? And it's kind of a rhetorical question because
You
OU will
can't.
be able to. But
Oh, you
can you
think? Oh, you
find
think they can find somebody that's
can you find a guy on the roster that is capable of consistently creating separation, making
Oh
competitive
yeah.
catches, working the short and intermediate game to move the chains on third down, such that it doesn't really matter who he's lined up against? Whenever Jackson Arnold comes to the line of scrimmage on third down, he knows that's the guy I'm looking for. That's the guy that
Mhm.
time and again is going to be there for me. That's the guy that if he's got a window, small as it may be, I can get it to him and he's going to go make a play for me. Could that be JJ Hester? I don't know. But there's a ton of value for a guy like that in an
Yeah.
offense like Oklahoma's. A guy
Yeah.
that is simply a reliable short and intermediate target that's going to move the chains. I also think that doesn't necessarily have to be a wide receiver. That may very well be Bauer Sharp. And I think that'd be a great thing for the Oklahoma offense as well if your safety blanket is the tight end. Because as Venables mentioned, or no, it wasn't Venables. Gosh, somebody mentioned, you know what? It was Caleb Kelly the other day when I was doing radio with him. He said, Bauer Sharp is 250 pounds, but he looks like he's 225.
Yeah.
He is athletic as all get out, and he's going to be making plays from that tight end spot.
He, the funny thing, like when you look at Bauer Sharp, I'm excited. Have we got to talk to him yet? I don't think we have we?
Just once in the spring.
Yeah. I do remember that. So outside of that, he is the nicest human being walking the face of the earth. Like,
He's a little
I,
country.
yeah, he's very. There you go. I was gonna let you. Yes, yes, he is, and but it's like wholesome.
Oh, yeah.
Like this summer, I got to see him a few times this summer and just kind of watch him, and he is about as wholesome as I get. He is. You can definitely tell that he played quarterback because he understands how to work. When I say work a room, I'm not literally talking about a room. He knows how to work the crowd, I guess. Like everybody around, like Jackson and Michael Hawkins are fantastic at that. So is he. He knows how to work a room and a crowd. And he's going to be endearing. I hope he has a bunch of big games because he's going to be very endearing to the OU fans once they get to know him on a different level and watch interviews with him. Um, Another thing that BV brought up, which we dove in a little bit on the post practice blitz was the fact that he, quote, didn't want to anoint the defense, but damn, he anointed them.
Well, here's what's very, very interesting to me with regard to what Venables has said and hasn't said about this defense. And I cannot take credit for this insight because, or rather this thought, because it was a member over at OUinsider.com that initially shared this. By the way, now is an opportune time to let you all
Bowman.
know.
I know what you're
If
talking
you
about.
if you wanna join OUinsider.com, you can do it for 75% off right now until Friday. Go join with promo code SEC24 and you will get a full year's subscription for less than $25. That's some awesome value. And we hope that many of you will take this opportunity to check out what we're doing over at OUinsider.com. Because you jump on board now, you're going to get all the way through football season, all the way through the majority of the 2026 recruiting cycle. There's going to be a ton of exciting content flying your way. But
it's $74.96 off regular price. That I just want to put that in perspective for people, Parker. $74.96 off regular price
that's
for a
saving
whole
you a
year.
lot of money. Um,
Yes.
but I got sidetracked there.
Yes. That's okay. It
Shameless
was
plug.
Bowman. Yes.
But there was a member on OU Insider that shared this insight in a thread, and I thought it was very pertinent to the greater discussion about the Oklahoma defense heading into 2024. Uh, this member pointed out that at no point from Brent Venables have we heard some of his constant refrains that we heard in 2022 and 2023. We still got a long way to go. We're nowhere close to being where we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're an unfinished product, like all that type of stuff that you've heard from Venables and the assistants time and again over the first 2 years of the new regime. There hasn't been a whisper of that heading into the 2024 season. So it's as much about what Venables isn't saying as what he is saying. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very, very intriguing that he's not trying to throw in those little caveats about the progression of his defense. And that would lead you to believe that the internal expectations that this defense has for themselves and that this staff has for their defense. I don't know whether the expectation is truly to have the number one defense in the country, as Robert Spears Jennings said the other day at post practice availabilities, but no doubt they expect to be nationally revered for their defensive efforts this fall.
So, on that same token, I was talking to somebody this evening, and they were, how do I want to, they were, let's just say that when it comes to offensive football at the University of Oklahoma, they know a lot about it. Um, and I you know, didn't, they didn't beat around the bush when it came to the offense and defense. Essentially, not really worried about the offense. And I was like, so everything we're hearing, is that true, false, negative? Like what's the gist here? And they said, no, 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 no. Look, there's a lot of up and downs on the offensive side of the ball right now. But when you go and you watch what's going on film, and when you watch, and look, they literally came back and said, just to kind of make it short, the defense pops when you watch it, when you see it, when you know what you're looking at. They're so, and I quote, they are so good. They are so good. Better than people want to believe. Now, you take what Venables said today, and he said, look, you got guys on all three levels that would probably start and would play at every program in the country. He said that. You can go look.
Fact check, true. Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman, Dominic Williams at minimum.
At minimum. So you take that, and then you take what I just told you a source said today, and you take what the sources that we talked to this weekend, Parker, and you can go to a U Insider. We have a whole, like 4,000 word thing on the scrimmage. Like it's in depth with quotes, notes, everything sourced to the brim. And I'll give you a little insight on what was said a little bit in our notes. Essentially, the defense, dominant, dominant, dominant. And everybody wants to pinpoint that D line, the D line, the D line, the D line. And that is a major factor here. That defensive front, Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson. And I quote what I was told yesterday: those two are as good, if not better, than advertised. Again, these are glaring quotes from people that are watching this stuff take place on a day in and day out basis. They talked up David Stone. They talked up Ethan Downs and Caden Woolard and R. Mason Thomas. Like, that's just the front, Parker. I said, what about the linebackers? I said, BV and Zach Aller coaching linebackers. How good do you think they're going to be with Danny Stutzman leading the way? I said, pretty good. They go, well, you answered your own question, Drumm. Okay. I said, back end. Billy Bowman's the leader. Woody Washington. Peyton Bowen. Like, those are all conference talents. And then you've got what he said about Kenai Walker today being the most consistent. And you have Gentry Williams there already. Bro, that's scary. Jacoby Johnson, Eli Bowen. It's not what OU fans are used to. It's not what you and I are used to. Right? Like, we're not used to that. So it becomes hard to believe. I want to believe it. Are you still in the seeing is believing like me?
Oh, yeah, to some extent, yes, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you are buying it a little bit, right?
oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'm guzzling the Kool-Aid right now,
Yeah,
but
me either.
I'm sipping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sipping. I'm having a few healthy sips because, I mean, look, and we've talked about it on paper. This ought to be Oklahoma's best defense in 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
9 starters coming back. You plug Dominic Williams into one of those starting spots that was vacated, and you plug Peyton Bowen into the other one. Yeah, that's a pretty rock solid unit, Brandon. So if those guys are merely as good as advertised, Oklahoma's going to have a very impressive defense in 2024. But if those guys are better than advertised, and if Venables' assertion from about a week and a half ago that there is far less of a drop-off between the first-team defense and second-team defense than there was through the first 2 years is accurate.
That's another quote. Yes.
That, to me, screams elite potential.
Mm-hmm. So
elite potential.
Tonight, this person was obviously at the scrimmages. I just happened to be at a practice, and I'll leave it at that. Not an OU practice or anything, but just a practice that happened to have somebody that was at the scrimmage, and he essentially said, this will be the best defense OU's had in a decade. And they've seen it multiple times. And this person, you know who I'm talking about. They know defense. Fact, no defense.
Well, and it's easy to forget about, but all in all, those 2020 and 2021 defenses, those were pretty good. They weren't top tier.
2015.
I don't even know if they were upper echelon necessarily, but they were good enough that if you took care of business offensively, you could count on winning double-digit football games.
Yeah. So
now, if this
I'm going
is
to look up the stats for us real quick. Go ahead and talk. I'm going to look up the stats on the 21, 2020, and 2015 defenses.
Yeah. But and here to me, is where this team really has an opportunity to do something special in 2024. The standard of offense at the University of Oklahoma is so high. And that offense always lives up to the standard. I mean, for 25 years now, Brandon, how many seasons have Oklahoma fans witnessed where the offense was a disappointment, top to bottom? Maybe like the last 2 years of the Heupel era, where you were in the wilderness between Landry Jones and Baker Mayfield as your starting quarterbacks. Okay, like with that exception, Oklahoma has continually fielded one of the more prolific offenses in college football, and so that's become the expectation. And that not only has become the expectation, it's become something you can set your watch to. Oklahoma's offensive units are going to put up a lot of points. And so Oklahoma doesn't necessarily need to play elite defense to be considered among the nation's top teams, to be right there in the thick of it for a college football playoff berth and even a national title. I mean, we've seen this before, right? And I'm not saying Oklahoma offensively in 2024 is going to be what they were in 2017, for instance, but they don't need to be a top 5 defense in the country in order to go win double-digit games and in order to earn a slot in the college football playoff. If they are a top 5 defense, I mean, at that point, Brandon, I go back to an assertion I've made before and an assertion that I don't think is even debatable. I don't know how many games Oklahoma wins in 2024, but there is no one on their schedule that is going to completely overmatch them. There is no program on that schedule that on paper is quite obviously better than Oklahoma, more talented than Oklahoma. And so if it all comes together in 2024, man, and a lot is riding on Jackson Arnold's shoulders naturally as the quarterback. There's more on his shoulders than anybody else. But if the offense remains as prolific as Oklahoma fans have expected it to be and witnessed over the better part of a quarter century, and the defense does indeed take that quantum leap that Venables and his staff seem to expect, this team could drastically exceed expectations.
I totally agree. And we were talking about this defense probably being maybe the best in the last decade, potentially on paper. And what we're hearing, as long as they're healthy, yeah, that has the potential of being that. So that would mean, Parker, in 2015, they were the 29th overall defense in the country. In 2020, they were the 33rd. No, excuse me, 28th. In 2020, they were the 28th overall defense. In 2021, it felt like that defense was really good, right? It did. It felt like it was a really good defense. But they were only 60 overall as far as yards given up.
Wow.
But this is why it felt like they were so good. They were 33rd in the nation in scoring. So they had a top 40 scoring defense.
And that's what matters, is scoring defense.
Yeah, well, those defenses in 2020 and 2020, when 2020 and 2015 scoring defense, they were top 30. So 35-ish. So that would put, if Oklahoma can do that this year, and let's say they end up with a top 35 scoring defense or better. Let's say they end up with a top 25 scoring defense. Are they making the playoffs?
Yes. Yes. At that point, yes. You can pencil them in for the college football playoff.
Okay. As you said, it hinges on quarterback. Yeah. And there's my segue. There you go. So the other thing that Venables talked about today was the progression of Jackson Arnold. And he said he's happy with it. So naturally, I'm not doing my reporting job. We're not doing our reporting job if one of us doesn't call people and ask, is there any, or even ask people if there's any substance to the fact that maybe some of the ups and downs are due to how talented and how good that defense is that not just a possibility, that probably the most likelihood of the scenarios?
Yes. I mean, if you don't think
Yes, that was everybody's answer. Yes.
yes, like,
Yes.
and I'll tell you this much. Um, I've mentioned this on the radio as well. I think it bears repeating for those that didn't hear it. Um, and there will, I think, be a lot more because you can listen asynchronously. There are a lot more that'll hear it on this podcast than that heard it on the radio. Um, I was talking to an FBS coach earlier this week that is not at the University of Oklahoma, not at any university remotely affiliated with Oklahoma. Just catching up, talking about his team. And one of the things he mentioned to me was, yeah, look, we had a scrimmage earlier in the week, and defense dominated our offense. Defense was markedly better than the offense. But that's what you expect as a college football coach. If your defense isn't ahead of your offense through the first couple of weeks, something's wrong. Something is very wrong because not only is there less for, generally speaking, is there less for a defense to digest in fall camp in terms of information intake, but they also, like, they know everything that the offense knows. They know your terminology. They know all of that. And so that defense not only is going to be ahead of you as far as the install is concerned in most cases, but they're also going to be familiar with everything you're doing.
Yeah.
And so they're going to know you better than any defense that you're going to see throughout the course of the season. And so that coach kind of closed the loop by saying this, look, I expect every single year that for the first couple of weeks of fall camp in particular, the defense is going to own the day anytime we scrimmage. And that's just kind of how it is. And again, that's how it has to be if your team is coming along the way that you need it to. And there's no defense in college football more nuanced than Brent Venables. There is no defensive scheme in college football that is more intricate than the one that Jackson Arnold is going up against every single day in practice. And I guess my rejoinder, look, if you have concerns, if you have apprehensions about a Jackson Arnold, I'll tell you, okay, that's fair. Like, I'm not going to fight you on that. Okay, if you want to hash, or if you really want to highlight the 3 picks that he threw in the Alamo Bowl, and you want to point out the fact that that's the only start he's made as a collegian and it's uncharted territory in 2024, that's fine. You can have all that. I won't debate you on those points. What I will ask you is, what is the absolute worst that's going to happen? Because let's just say Jackson Arnold is a Titanic flop, which I don't think is going to happen. But let's just say for the sake of the argument,
Michael Hawkins, welcome.
Jackson Arnold falls flat on his face and is completely incapable of leading this offense and leading this football team. Michael Hawkins, as a true freshman, has outpaced everyone's expectations. I think that there are more and more folks coming around to the knowledge of that reality that, okay, like that kid's the real deal.
Yep.
And when his time comes, it's going to be exciting. But also, okay, if Michael Hawkins isn't ready, if things fall through with him and the inexperience comes back to bite him and he's just kind of floundering, you've got a 7th-year senior there on the third string, Brandon, a guy that is only 2 seasons removed from having the most statistically prolific season by any starting quarterback at the University of Texas in several years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, BV even talked about it. First, I want to, you hit on a lot of things. First, I want to touch on the defense part versus the offense. So what you're saying is all those years that Muleshoe's offense was kicking the crap out of Grinch and Mike Stoops' defense, and we were hearing about, oh, the offense won the day during the scrimmage and all that. Instead of going, well, that's because the offense is so elite, probably should have been with red flags going and like flashing lights going, burr, 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 warning, warning, warning. and we weren't. We fell for it every year, going, "Oh, well, they're going to be better because they recruited really well." Well, you can recruit all you want if it. And by the way, Mike Stoops is a great defensive mind and a great defensive coach. The culture just sucked under Muleshoe as far as defense goes, and it ruined everybody. I mean, freaking Grinch was a amazing DC at Washington State, and all of a sudden is crap at Oklahoma. So, um, I mean, there's a common denominator every time, but I digress. Um, the other thing that you touched on, which I thought was really interesting, was that you talked about the intricacy of Venables' defense. Well, we've been talking about that since the spring when I came out and I said they are throwing everything in the book at Jackson Arnold and that offensive line, trying to get them ready. I can't tell you how many sources told me that, Parker. Like literally, and I asked the question: is that not going to ruin the offensive line and the confidence of the offensive line and the confidence of Jackson and the other quarterbacks? They said no. All they're going to do is walk away going, "Okay, that sucked, and I'm not playing very well, but nobody else is going to throw that at me. And if I do happen to see it or any other defense that I see in the season, it's going to be a lot easier on him. He's going to be able to read it quicker. The offensive line is going to be able to communicate a lot faster because they're not getting stunts from the defensive end going into the A gap and then followed by the inside backer coming into the C gap, just kind of stunting around and crap like that. Like you're not going to see a lot of that all the time with rolling coverages all the same time. Everything just kind of flying at you. That's Brent Venables to a T. That's what makes his defense is so elite. On top of the talent that he recruits, he screws with offensive coordinators and quarterbacks' heads and offensive linemen's heads all the time. That's what he's good at. So it's just going to make them better. And on top to follow that, BV said that today. He literally, you remember that? He literally said, playing against that defense is just going to make the offense better. They are making the offense better. You remember those words? I mean, it iron sharpens iron, Parker.
Well, and I think if you trust Brent Venables and you trust that he's the right guy to lay the foundation for success in the SEC at Oklahoma brick by brick, then there's no reason not to trust what this team can be in 2024. Because if you don't want to trust the offense, you certainly ought to trust the defense, in my mind. Again, 9 of 11 starters coming back. You plug in Dominic Williams, Caden Woolard, Peyton Bowe. Like, that's going to be a very good defense.
Yes.
How good? I don't know, but it's going to be very good. Like, that is not going to be a flyover unit in the SEC. But again, if indeed you do have faith in that Oklahoma defense, which there is no reason not to, if you trust that Oklahoma's defense is going to be the type of defense that is going to be capable of powering down opposing offenses, giving opposing quarterbacks fits, winning you football games, then there is absolutely no reason to sweat the quarterback situation, even if you are the most vehement Jackson Arnold dissenter on the planet. Because if worst comes to worst, like what is the worst case scenario? The absolute worst case scenario is you are rolling out your third string quarterback who led the Big 12 in touchdown passes in 2021 and completed 63% of his passes with a 17-10 touchdown to interception ratio in 2022 for a Nebraska team that was abysmal.
Yep.
Behind an offensive line that was abysmal. If the worst case scenario is Casey Thompson is in the football game, just keeping the train on the tracks, Oklahoma's going to be more than okay, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, and I know just to keep reiterating that, Brent Venables talked about Casey Thompson today and said he's smart. He understands things. He talked about how quick he is at deciding, and we talked about that in our notes, by the way. He talked about how much he understands the offense. And he said, like, they're not letting him get hit. They were protecting them. They're doing all they can to protect him because they want Casey Thompson healthy. And it's not because they're doing it to be like martyred or anything. They want him healthy because he can help them win ball games if push comes to shove. Like, he's a very good. I think he gets a bad rap because he played for Texas. If he didn't play for Texas, if he would have chose Oklahoma out of high school, being that he was the first offer OU made at quarterback in 2018, we're not talking about. First off, the history of OU quarterbacks is way different, by the way,
Radically different.
or radically different, because he probably starts at one point, and Caleb Williams probably never shows up to, and then there's a domino of just a plethora of things that would have happened differently. But it took a long time for him to get back to Oklahoma, but he's where he wants to be. He's at home, he says. He loves it there. And he's a really good quarterback. Like, I have to say, like, as far as talent goes, like, if you look at the QB room, 22 and 23 compared to now, Parker, it's night and day different. Night and day different. It's wildly different, actually. And you just need to relax. I think the offense is going to be really good because if worst comes to worst, guess what you get to do, Parker? You get to turn around and hand it to 27.
Yeah.
Last I checked, he was really freaking good. Gavin Sawchuk, and even when the offense is not having a good day, guess who everybody talked about having a really good day Saturday? Had a busted a 40-yard run, a 20-yard run, and I believe a 25-yard run. Gavin Sawchuk. He's pretty good.
Yeah. He certainly is. Javante Barnes is also pretty good.
He's also really good. Yes. Yeah.
Taylor Tatum's going to be pretty good.
Yep.
As long as the blocks are there up front, man, this backfield's going to be overall pretty dang good in the year 2024.
Another thing Venables touched on was how much he likes where the running backs are at now. He loves the talent of the running back room. At the end of the day, I still believe as long as this offensive line can stay healthy, I still believe that this team is going to far supersede what everybody nationally believes in it. And I think everybody that's watched them this summer, fall, believes that. And they believe it because the defense, which again, it's just like, I feel like I'm sinning saying that, having covered Oklahoma for the last 12 years and watching it forever. Like, that just doesn't compute. Like, earlier Stoops, yeah, that computes. 2015 to now, like, that's 70% of the time we've talked about it. They have not been very good.
Nope.
So it's really hard to say, but it's the truth. And it's probably, as long as Venables is the head coach from this point on, it's going to be the truth. They are going to have a good defense. And the back end of that defense, Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, Robert Spears Jennings, and this freshman, Michael Boganowski, that guy that everybody's talking about right now and loving. That's one of the main reasons why. I had somebody tell me today, Parker, that Billy Bowman, if he isn't the best safety in the country, they want to see who is.
I walked out on the practice
Caleb
field
Downs
this
says
morning.
hi, but
yeah, I walked out on the practice field this morning, laid eyes on Billy Bowman, and went, "Oh my!"
Yeah,
like that looks like an NFL football player.
mm-hmm.
That is what it looks like. Billy Bowman, and similarly, I've had several conversations with folks in recent days, folks who have been privy to what's gone on in scrimmages on the practice field that have said, yeah, Billy Bowman is going to be the best safety in college football. And That's not even all that hot of a take, Brandon. Yeah, there will be other guys that have a case, but Billy Bowman probably ought to have won the Thorpe Award last year. There might not have been a better safety, a more impactful safety in college football than him in 2023. And yet, the one thing that everybody says, everybody has continued to say about Billy Bowman is the Billy Bowman that you're going to see in 2024 is a far cry from the Billy Bowman that you saw in 2023 because he knows this is his last ride. And Robert Spears Jennings talked about this today. He said this is an emotional year for Billy Bowman because it's the last time he's going to put on that Oklahoma uniform. And so there's been a drive, there's been a fire there for Billy Bowman. And you're seeing it in the way that he's handled himself as both a leader and a worker within the walls of the Switzer Center. So, I mean, for him and for Danny Stutzman, I mean, that's where it starts. That's the heart and soul of Oklahoma's defense in 2024. And I also am really encouraged. I think Oklahoma fans ought to be encouraged by the reality that the days of filling gaps are gone for this Oklahoma defense. No longer are you going to go to the portal, and I'm not trying to take a dig at anybody here, but no longer are you going to go to the portal and grab a guy like a Key Lawrence, for instance, a few years back. That, okay, decent player. He's had some success at the collegiate level, but a little bit of a speculative take. No, the guys that you go to the portal for are going to be Dominic Williams, Caden Woolard type dudes, like plug and play starters, because otherwise you're not going to have need for anybody else in the portal. Because even when you lose Billy Bowman, well, okay, Michael Bokanowski's next up in the back end alongside Peyton Bowen and Robert Spears Jennings. And you lose Danny Stutzman, well, guess what? Lewis Carter and Samuel Masigo are coming up. There's so much young talent, especially the talent that's been accumulated in these last couple of recruiting classes, 23 and 24 for Oklahoma, that their time hasn't come yet. But make no mistake, there are some very, very gifted football players, future NFL football players right now that just kind of have to bide their time on that depth chart because there is no viable path to playing time, or at least much of it right now, because of the absolute dogs that are on the depth chart above them.
It's a different time. I mean, we keep talking about Michael Boganowski, and let's just say there's the comment made that, that we're trying to pretend like there's like this big battle and stuff. Look, Robert Spears Jennings will likely be the backup, the second teamer to start the season, but it has not been a cakewalk like everybody thought it was. It's not like written in stone that this is going to be it. Like, there was a time when it looked like Billy Bowman and Robert Spears Jennings were going to be the starting safeties. Free safety, Robert Spears Jennings. Strong safety, Billy Bowman. Well, what happened was this guy Peyton Bowen decided, I'll play wherever. And they said, cool, battle Robert Spears Jennings. He's now the starting free safety. Well, this other guy came in that's 6'3", 218 pounds, runs a 4.40. Never really played safety in his life, learning how to backpedal, learning how to do a lot of things. But you want to know what he has a knack for? The big play and taking your freaking head off. And if anybody knows Brent Venables, if anybody knows Brandon Hall and Zach Alley, the one thing that they will take overall is somebody that's smart, which Boganowski is, somebody that will take your head off, which he will, and somebody that has a knack for making a big play, which if you watch his film, you see that in droves. And if you watch the spring game, you saw it as well. Yeah. So he has the three things that you're looking for. He may not be the most technically sound. Robert Spears Jennings will kill him if it came to technician battle. Sure. That's what he does. He's a stud. Robert Spears Jennings will be an NFL DB. He will be an NFL safety. There's a lot of people that believe Michael Boganowski is a day one, day two guy when it's all said and done.
I'm I'm not gonna name drop anybody on the
No need to.
offensive side, but I was talking I brought up Boganowski in a conversation earlier this week with a source who had been out of practice, and that individual told me, yeah, Boganowski slept somebody today in practice. And
We've
I
heard
said,
that a
yep, that
lot this
sounds
fall
about
camp
right.
too. Yeah.
That sounds about right. He does
I
that.
There was a live, I'll tell everybody now, and this is a couple weeks ago. There was a live um a live portion of the practice. And I'm not going to name names or receivers or anything like that. Just no need. Let's just say Boganowski was waiting, and they said that dude got hit so hard that the ball popped straight up in the air. It obviously got picked off, but they said one of the funniest parts was Boganowski was just standing there like nothing happened. And that poor receiver was about 4 yards back the other way. like it was like, and this isn't a small person that this happened to. So he just, that's what he does. And
Yeah.
this has nothing to do with us pumping up or hyping this kid up or anything. We're telling you things that factually have happened and what people are factually saying about this kid. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to start. He's not. Doesn't mean he's going to be the second team guy. He may not be. I tend to think it's probably going to be Robert Spears Jennings. Experience, understanding the defense. He's going to win that battle. But I asked somebody that would definitely know this answer. Will Boganowski play this year? Abso-freaking-lutely he will. And he will play a lot is what I was told. So you're going to see a lot of that rotation. Reggie Powers is going to get a lot of playing time, probably at Cheetah. I would assume he's going to get some good looks there, Parker. I was told Jaden Hardy is probably a year away from being something really good. Like they feel so
Which
good.
is
Like you're
fine.
not going to
Like,
know when they rotate, Parker. Like I think that's what you want, right? If you recruit so well that outside of maybe Peyton Bowen not being on the field next year, you're not going to notice when these guys rotate off the field, right? You're going to know when Peyton Bowen's off the field next year. Like, because he may be one of the best safeties in college football next year. But isn't that how Alabama and Georgia have become so elite? Is the fact that they can throw whoever out there and you don't really notice because it's NFL player after NFL player coming on the field, right?
mhm.
It's kind of the idea.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and what a how far that room has come from
oh, yeah.
2020, 2021, where it was Patrick Fields and Delarian Turner Yell back there. And if it wasn't one of those two, ugh,
Yikes.
you got goosebumps for all the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talking about the offensive line real quick before we move over into recruiting and close this thing out. It needs to stay healthy, Parker, in a bad, bad way. It's been banged and bruised up. We got to witness Jake Taylor could barely move today. Now, I've asked some people, they expect him to be fully healthy come game one. They expect the offensive line to be healthy come game one. The good news for Oklahoma is that they've Bill Bedenbaugh. Look, they have the 8 guys that they think can play really and do a really good job. You got Michael Tarquin, you've got Branson Hickman, obviously Jake Sexton, Fabici Wewu, Spencer Brown. Who else am I thinking here? Troy Everett, that's 6. Who am I missing here off the top of my head? Garen Hatchett, that's 7. And then 8th would be Michael Tarquin. So did I say Tarquin twice or did I say once?
I
I
think
said
you only
once.
said Tarquin once.
Those are the 8 guys that you expect to be always in the rotation and playing for Oklahoma every game. What they need is 2 more youngsters to step up, whether it's Hito Zaida, whether it's Eddie Pierre-Louis. Oh my God. I turned that off. Eddie Pierre-Louis, and the other one would be Eugene Brooks, BJ Brooks. Like you expect those guys to play some. Josh Bates would be the other one as well. They got to find 3 or 4 guys, youngsters, freshmen, sophomores that can come in and really make a play. I think Logan Allen's another guy that they expect to at some point be almost elite. They say he has all the talent in the world to be elite. Just got to figure it out. That's kind of what Bill Bedenbaugh has to work with right now at offensive line. Now, Branson Hickman, Troy Everett, Jake Taylor. Is there anybody else that's been banged up that I'm not thinking of? Garen Hatchett. They've been banged up off and on.
Bunch of guys been hurt.
Yeah,
Emphasis on hurt, not injured.
Correct. Yep. There you go. Yep. Yeah. So they just got to, I think as long as they can get those guys ready to go for game 1. I don't know that Troy Everett will be ready. He practiced today, suited up at least.
He doesn't need to be ready. It's about September 21st much more than it's about August 30th.
100%
for a lot of these guys.
Yep. So by that time, do you expect there to be, and this is, you know how Bill Bedenbaugh always rotates until about Texas, and that's when he kind of solidifies his line, and that's what he's going to roll with.
Yeah.
Tennessee's that's the game this year, right? Like he's got to.
Yeah, you can't afford to be rotating once you get.
Got to expedite the situation a little bit.
You got to figure it out before then.
Yeah. So, how do you think it's going to play out?
A word to all the college students out there. I'm OU Insider co-publisher Parker Thune, and I myself was a college student not too terribly long ago, so I understand the reality of life for you. Your budget's tight, but you still want access to the best OU football, basketball, softball, and recruiting coverage in the market. Well, guess what? We're looking out for you at OUinsider.com. If you send us an email from any account that ends in edu, regardless of what university you attend, we will respond with a custom promo code that will entitle you to a full year of OUinsider.com membership for just $11.95. Let me repeat that. You will pay $11.95 one time. You will get full access to OUinsider.com for an entire year. That means recruiting notes, team coverage, message board discourse, and so much more. All you have to do is send us an email at OUinsider@rivals.com. That's OUinsider@rivals.com from any account that ends in edu, and we'll get you hooked up. Become an insider today, folks. What are you waiting for? I'll see you soon. I think the easy answers are Jake Sexton at left tackle, Branson Hickman at center, Fabechi Wiwu at right guard.
Yeah, is Branson Hickman guaranteed with Troy Everett coming back?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Assuming he's 100% healthy. Yes.
Yeah.
I would go again, if healthy, with Garen Hatchett at left guard and Jake Taylor at right tackle right now.
Where's Michael Tarquin in all this?
The sixth man. And I think he's kind of the ideal sixth man because he's played all over. Right. And so you have a guy get banged up, or you have a guy that just, for whatever reason, it just isn't clicking. It's not happening for him. Like Troy Everett in the Texas game last year. Tarquin can be your fix-a-flat. And I think he's well suited for that.
How do you think right tackle plays out as far as backups? Do you think that Spencer Brown guaranteed at that spot, or do you think Logan Hallen can come in and play that spot?
I think Spencer Brown is probably your backup just because he's played the most. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't have a ton of confidence if Spencer Brown has to see the field at any point, as we've discussed. But
people need to understand Parker and Spencer Brown is a lot like, if you've been following the podcast for long enough, it's a lot like the Groves brothers in me. It's up there with him. Like it's like nails on a chalkboard for him.
Yeah, I'm like, nope, don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there, please.
So it's not good.
I'm not sure I want to see that.
He's not a fan. So
I would love it if Spencer could go and prove me wrong this fall. but my impression of him has not been sterling thus far. As a football player, I'm sure he's a fine human being. So yeah, I mean that's how I would project it, Brandon. Sexton, Hatchett, Hickman, Wee Woo, Taylor. If that's your starting five, I feel pretty good about that. And honestly,
that's a really good starting five, by the way.
Yeah, honestly, you could slide Tarquin pretty much anywhere in there, and I'd feel just as good.
Mm-hmm. When your left guard that you picked up in the portal was also a starter for several games of the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, I think you're in pretty good shape. And then when the other one, your center is only giving up 1 sack in 33 starts and like 1,100 pass attempts, and Jake Sexton's your left tackle, which day 1, day 2 talent,
You're gonna be
freshman
all right.
All-American at right guard. I think you're gonna be okay. Gonna be all right. So I think deep breaths. I think that like we've talked about, Venables hinted at, and what sources have said, the defensive line makes the offensive line not look as good as it probably is right now because the defensive line is that good. So, speaking of offensive line, Parker, 5 stars. That's what OU's got left on the board is 5 stars. 5-star offensive tackle. It feels like, and what has been reported by Texas people, is that Texas may not be in as good a shape as they once thought with Mr. Michael Fasusi out of Louisville, Texas. Obviously, his best friend, Sean Hudson, is going to Oklahoma as preferred walk-on. His other really close, near and dear friend is already at Oklahoma, and Jaden Hardy playing safety. And obviously he's really close with a lot of other guys in the OU class too. Do you buy the reports coming out of Austin right now?
The dots all connect, Brandon. I mean, at this point, you have every reason to believe that Michael Fasusi is going to be a Sooner next Wednesday. But, and I feel like the majority of people are here with me. It's hard to buy with 100% confidence that this is actually going to happen.
Oh, you can buy it.
Okay. Yes. Well played. But been here so many, because like, for instance, you could have said all the same things last year around this time about Williams Nwaneri.
Yeah.
And in the end, for him at Missouri, it was Missouri. Even after just days before his commitment announcement, there seemed to be a new surge of Oklahoma momentum. And there was even more confidence that he was going to be a Sooner. And so, like, I've been down this road too many times, Brandon, to have fully convinced myself that Fasusi is going to be a Sooner. But again, all of the dots connect. If this thing comes crashing to the ground, and indeed you lose Fasusi to Texas or even Texas A&M, and the Aggies don't feel like they're out of it. I know that much. In talking to a few folks that are connected down there, they don't feel they're out of it, and they've been having pretty regular conversations with Fasusi as of late. I don't think he goes there, but stranger things have happened. Much stranger things have happened on the recruiting trail. It feels like for a while now, Oklahoma has been the program that, well, I don't even know how you phrase it. Like, there are those that are connected well in and around Fasusi's circle that have intoned and straight up communicated that Fasusi has a preference for Oklahoma.
Yes.
And that's a huge encouragement. And that's reason to feel optimistic. But again, Brandon, how many times have we sat here and said all these things about whoever it might have been, DJ Hicks or Nwaneri, or most recently even Lamont Rogers? And in the end, it
Money, money, money.
takes a hard left turn, and the kid isn't going to Oklahoma after all. So, look, my pick has been on Texas. My future cast has been on Texas since March. I have come close to bailing on it a time or two over the last few weeks. I think I've mentioned that. But every time I get checked up against the boards by reality. And unfortunately, the reality is that a common denominator for Oklahoma in recent years, with the notable exception of Peyton Bowen, which was triumphant, has been that when you get into these arduous recruitments that go down to the wire and there's this layer of mystery that shrouds all of it, that so many of those have not gone in Oklahoma's favor. I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Well,
Here's the
Jaden
thing with
Jackson too. Yeah.
well, and here's the thing with Fasusi. He's not telling anybody.
Mhm.
There are folks very, very close to that situation, people on his high school staff, like people that generally would know if he indeed has his mind made up, as he has stated. Those people would know where he's going, and he hasn't informed any of them.
Yeah.
So we're just going off sheer vibes here, Brandon. I mean, that's really it. I don't know that any like, and certainly he has not informed Oklahoma, Texas, or Texas A&M of any decision, as evidenced by the fact that he's still talking to all three. And so, if he knows, he's the only one that knows right now.
Yeah. I don't buy that he knows, or let me rephrase that. I buy that he knows, but I don't. I think when he made that statement, I think he made that in kind of haha, I know something you don't know type deal. Then I don't think he really did at the time. I think he was more building it up in the suspense of I'm going to toy it now. Now I get to toy with everybody at this juncture. And it's not that because he's a great kid, phenomenal kid. Um, how I kind of am starting to buy the Fasusi talk with Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma leads, and here's why. Texas wants and needs somebody to come in next year and play right away. If they truly believe that Fasusi can't play right away as a freshman, which is, I don't know, you can argue that. How could you know until he gets on campus and starts going through practice and goes up against an actual Division I defensive lineman and defensive end and starts studying the playbook? I don't know how you could know that. But I think in the transfer portal world, one, I think Oklahoma would love to take a 5-star offensive tackle in the recruiting cycle. And I think they probably want to follow it up and go grab somebody out of the portal because they want somebody that can come in and can compete. And if for nothing else, let's say Jake Sexton returns next year, play right tackle for Oklahoma. They've got a lot of talent. They've recruited really well. The last 2 cycles have been phenomenal for Oklahoma. The transfer portal has been phenomenal. If they can minimize the attrition, if they can minimize the attrition, Parker, I don't think it's life or death if they get Fasusi or don't get Fasusi. Honestly, I think for Texas, it'll hurt them more than it'll hurt Oklahoma because Beanbo's done a better job recruiting. And on top of that, he's been nails in the portal. He just has. And so some fans don't think it's worth anything if they miss out on the 5 stars. Like, oh, there he goes again, stinking at recruiting. Really? Like, think about everything that he's done building up the offensive line through the portal. And I get that fans have been conditioned to look at the high school for years and years and years, but there's multiple ways, for lack of a better term, to skin a cat these days. And portal and high school recruiting, you can build a class, you can build a position. It doesn't have to be one way anymore. And so, yeah, it'll suck if they miss out. Not life or death. Still he's brought in Ryan Foje, who could end up being the best of the best, anyways. So I mean, that guy, his upside's ridiculous.
I also think if they miss out on Fasusi, Brandon, I think we're going to see Demon Bill. And Demon Bill is going to lasso Andrew Babalola and not let go.
I kind of agree with that. I think he gets one, and if nothing more, he's going to go and try to flip, and quite possibly could flip Amon Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, like, look,
So.
if Fasusi picks Texas, assuming Babalola hasn't committed by then, which with the holding pattern that thing is in, I firmly believe Fasusi is off the board next Wednesday, but before Babalola has made a decision.
I think Babalo's waiting.
Yeah, if Fasusi were to pick Texas, then I tend to think Bill would get on the phone with Babalola and tell him flat out, look,
Blank check.
Are you coming to Oklahoma? And if not, what is it going to take to change your mind? Because we'll make it happen.
We will all of a sudden become the Ivy League of the plains. I don't know. That seems that's what he's looking for. Christian Jones. It seems like that's what, May go into October. Is that kind of what you're hearing now?
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. September, October. Certainly not before the season starts. Even though he had said at the Rivals 5-star that he was kind of thinking about pulling the trigger before his senior season started. I do kind of have the expectation right now that it lasts till mid-season. And
what's the holdup with this kid? I don't
here's what I truly
understand.
think it is, Brandon.
Okay.
He's waiting for Nebraska to give him a reason. He's waiting for Nebraska to either give him a reason to commit there or a reason to commit somewhere else. He's had that offer, as we've discussed, for almost 3 years now. He is a Husker legacy. And if he, with all his heart, wanted to be a Cornhusker, he would have committed by now and helped build their 2025 class. Yeah. The fact that he is not suggests that he has reservations. And again, those reservations are well documented. Well documented. He has not really made it a secret to many folks that he has reservations about playing football in his home state for the Cornhuskers, especially if they're not winning. But I also think it bears it. This is something we should mention, and we've mentioned it with regard to Cade Petchak. We've mentioned it with regard to a couple other recruitments in the past, but Nebraska's collective, Nebraska's NIL collective, Brandon, quietly is very, very strong. They can make things happen. And when it comes down to keeping a top, 75 player, top 100 player in the nation home in the Cornhusker State, I don't know what the exact number is, but I'd be willing to bet his number at Nebraska is pretty substantial. Now, is it substantial enough that he's going to go play football for a team that's going 5-7 and 6-6 every year? Absolutely not. He is too competitive for that. And again, that's where I go back to. He's waiting for Nebraska to give him a reason. He's waiting for Nebraska to either win this fall and give him some confidence that he can be part of the group that actually turns Husker football, turns that program around after so many years of misery. Or he's waiting for the same old, at which point he can go his merry way and commit to Oklahoma.
If David Sanders commits to Nebraska, how long do you think it takes for Christian Jones to just go ahead and do it?
I don't think that has any substantial effect.
You don't?
I really don't.
Landing the number one offensive tackle wouldn't. You don't think that would have any say or sway in what he would do?
It's all about, can Nebraska win? To me, it's as simple as that. If they demonstrate early in the season that they are a changed program in year 2 under Matt Rule, then it's going to be not impossible, but much more difficult for Oklahoma to win that battle. If Nebraska flounders out the gates and they start 3-2, 2-3, yeah, I think at that point, kids are sooner.
Dylan Raiola, okay, Dylan Raiola. So He's done a phenomenal job recruiting for Nebraska. They're bringing in a really good class. They have a really good shot with David Sanders, right? Like it's crazy to even think about, to be honest. Does he and do they not mesh? Does he and Christian just not mesh the way that Dylan Raiola meshes with other people? Like, because you don't see a lot of them publicly. Dylan Raiola is out there recruiting everybody publicly. This kid's a hometown kid, home
Yeah,
state
well,
kid, top 100, and he's never out there blasting on Christian.
no, because like, look, Christian Jones is he's a unique kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's on his own wavelength, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't mean that as
Mm.
like I don't mean for that to carry a negative connotation, but he marches to the beat of his own drum in a sense, and like he's not going to be making his decision for anybody else. He's going to be making his decision for him. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got multiple good buddies in that Nebraska class, multiple guys that he's grown up around and knows well, multiple guys that have been in his ear for a long, long time to commit to the
Mm-hmm.
Cornhuskers. And again, he hasn't done it.
Yeah.
So, regardless of how many influences he has in his ear, again, Brandon, to me, it boils down to this. Does Nebraska win football games in 2024?
Gun to head, Fasusi a Sooner, August 22nd. Yes or no?
No.
Bang. I was just going to go ahead and shoot. It take too long. Gun to head is Christian Jones, October 15th, the Sooner. By October 15th.
Yes.
Okay.
Watch, I'll go 0 for 2.
What about Babalola? Where does he go?
Well, ask me once Fasusi decides.
Fair enough. I'll say yes, Fasusi. No. Yes, Fasusi, and no on Christian Jones, just because my gut tells me Matt Rule somehow starts winning at least 7 games and he decides that's good enough. 7 games be good enough?
I don't think 7 games is good enough.
Okay. Well, then I'll say both of them are Sooners. And I'll go Fasusi. They're 2 for 2. Fasusi and Jones Sooners. There you go. I'm going to try to go down and see Fasusi here in the next week before he announces. So hopefully have that on OU Insider VIP. And having said that, Parker talked about it earlier. If you're not on OU Insider, it's crazy. Particularly because you get it for $24.99. You get it $74.96 off the regular price of $99.95. So for $24, you can have OU Insider for a whole year. You sign up on August 14th, 2024. You get it all the way to August 14th, 2025, which means you get it all the way through half of fall camp or majority of fall camp next year. That's big. You get everything. Just $24. Go sign up at ouinsider.com. Use the promo code SEC24. If you're a college student, email us ouinsider@rivals.com. We will give you OU Insider for $11.95 for a whole year. $11.95 whole year. You have to email us from a .edu. So if it's ou.edu, if it's oklahomastate.edu, which we've had 15 of those. We've even had South Carolina, Clemson, Georgia, USC, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Texas,
We recruit
Texas
the whole
A&M.
country.
They all these students that are just big OU fans, but they go to other places. They've all signed up. So come give us a shot. You have a .edu, email us at ouinsider@rivals.com, and we will give you a promo code to sign up for $11.95 for a whole year. That's 90% off the regular price. That's a deal. The 75% off is a regular deal, or is a heck of a deal for just the everyday Oklahoma fan. Again, SEC24 promo code. Go to ouinsider.com, sign up for free. Use the promo code if you want to use it. Get 75% off. Sign up for $24. Get us for a year. We've had hundreds already do it in literally 48 hours. Join them. We would love to have you guys. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to this. Make sure you like and subscribe to whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. For Parker Thune, my name's Brandon Drumm. We will see you guys on the live later on this week.